Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swing and a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Anthony Witrado, breaking down a 2-1 Dodgers loss to the Padres on a walk-off single in the bottom of the ninth. Tons to get into. We've got giveaways to talk about, all sorts of stuff. But Anthony, how are you tonight? And we got a short game at least, right?
Yeah, that was the positive out of this, right? It was a short one on a Friday night. We're here, guys. We made it through the week. We're at Friday night. Not the way you want to start the weekend, but we're here.
Yeah, Dodgers had won 7 in a row. Anthony, you wouldn't know it based on the comments in our live chat at the moment. People are ready for the apocalypse, it feels, and I get it. They've lost 4 out of 6 to the Padres now, and if there's a team in Major League Baseball outside of probably the Astros, the Padres are probably the last team Dodgers fans want to lose to, especially in San Diego, and especially in the night when you had Tyler Glasnow on the mound for you and Michael King on the mound for them. We're going to talk pitching stuff. We're going to talk about the offense's inability to cash runs in. Let me make one quick announcement to let you folks know about something fun that we are doing tonight. We are giving away 3 copies tonight of Andy McCullough's new book, The Last of His Kind. This is the Clayton Kershaw book, if you haven't heard of it. We're going to be giving 3 of these copies away tonight. Here's how to enter. Okay, the first is we are going to have a competition here in just a few moments. We're going to have a trivia question about Clayton Kershaw. We're going to ask people to share their favorite Clayton Kershaw memory as well. All of that is going to happen in the next hour. Also, any super chat from tonight's show or Sunday night show is going to be entered into a drawing for a book as well. So 3 books given away tonight, 3 more on Sunday, plus the bonus one given away to super chats on Friday or Sunday. Again, not every super chat, but if you have a super chat tonight or Sunday, you enter yourself for a chance to win this book, The Last of His Kind, Clayton Kershaw and the Burden of Greatness by Andy McCullough. Again, we've talked about it a ton on the show. It's a fantastic book, and so you're going to want to get a copy of that. So stay tuned for some trivia, for some competition, all that kind of thing. But Anthony, as we react to this one in real time, again, the Dodgers lose to the Padres. Glasnow is great. He makes the one mistake to Campusano, who hits the home run to put the Padres up 1-0, the only hit that Glasnow allows. The Dodgers climb back in the 8th, can't quite cash in, and then Michael Grove not able to maintain a tie game into extra innings in the bottom of the 9th. What's your biggest takeaway from the game that we just watched?
I think the biggest thing is just how dominant Glasnow was again. He did everything that was asked of him to get the win tonight. Just looking at the schedule, you hate to lose games that he starts. This is like Kershaw 14, 15, those prime years where, like, if you lost a game that he started, typically it wasn't his fault, and typically you felt like you let one get away. And that's kind of how this one feels. My biggest takeaway isn't that the offense is terrible and that we need to move everybody out and get new bats and make a bunch of trades. They got beat tonight by a guy who was on. And he was a little bit better than our guy who was on. And I think, that's kind of how it goes. If a game like this, if you're going to say, okay, we're going to come into the season, opening day's right around the corner. Sure, there's going to be a game or two, a month or something like that, where this offense kind of doesn't have it or gets shut down by a really good pitching performance. You probably accept that, but then when it happens in real time, you're like, they were terrible, and there's all these problems. There's not all these problems. They have the best offense in baseball. They've been dominant from a win-loss perspective recently, and this was a game where they just got beat. I mean, King was really, really good. He had a little help from the umpire, sure, but he outdueled a Dodger ace, and that's kind of what it is. So my biggest takeaway is that you're continuing to get dominant performances from Tyler Glasnow. That's what the extension was for. That's what the trade was for. That's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I know it doesn't make for great content, but sometimes you just have to tip your hat. Like, I was watching Michael King, and I recognize that there's people that are looking for somebody to blame, looking for somebody to be mad at. This guy was just nasty tonight. Like, the Dodgers have some of the best hitters in Major League Baseball. They've been scoring 6+ runs per game over their last 16 coming into this. And there was just a guy on the other side today whose stuff was moving an absolutely disgusting amount, both to the right and to the left, with velocity, with everything that he needed. He had control of everything, and he had nastier movement. I think they said it was like plus 4 inches of horizontal movement compared to normal. And you're looking at guys like Will Smith, guys like Freddie Freeman, guys who are dialed in, guys who normally don't look foolish, who don't look like they're completely guessing. And yet that was what was happening tonight. And so when that guy lasts 7 innings and you only really get one shot against a guy in the 8th who they took advantage of a little bit, and then in the 9th, one of the best closers in Major League Baseball, sometimes you just have to tip your cap and say, our guy pitched good, their guy pitched better.
Yeah, it's funny because when our guy does it against another team, we're not going, man, that other team's lineup is terrible.
Yeah.
We say our pitcher was great.
Yeah.
And rightfully so most of the time, right? Tonight, King was great. I mean, you tip your cap. I mean, it can't always be only the Dodgers who did themselves in. Like, you're going to run into a really good pitching performance every once in a while from the other team. That's what happened tonight. This team has been clicking offensively, for the most part. They've proven how deep that lineup is. And tonight they got beat. I mean, there's no other way to put it. If they come out tomorrow and they put up 7 runs and they win, we're not going to be having this same conversation. And we're going to realize, they got beat by a pitcher who was on top of his game, and he was a little better than our guy.
Yeah. And I see people talking about the umpire. Michael Grove probably got the most generous call of the game in the bottom of the 9th. And if he's somehow able to get out of that against Ha-Sung Kim, then I just think, look, Will Smith got squeezed. Gavin Lux got squeezed. It's always Gavin Lux. He's always the guy, it feels like, that's getting a terrible strike 3, but it was both directions. And again, I think that Michael Grove strike, if the game goes to extra innings, is probably the most significant, like, sort of influential strike call that was terrible. It was way, way, way outside. So I think it's hard to blame the umpire. I see some people saying, hey, it's the offense's fault. Here's the thing about Michael King. Michael King, 7 innings, 2 hits, no earned, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts. I talked to Scott Kaplan this morning. Padres fans don't love this guy. I shouldn't say that. Padres fans didn't have confidence that this type of performance was going to be what we saw. But we were talking right before I came on. Let me throw some, like, people say, hey, great offense. It's on the offense, yada, yada, yada. Here's the deal. His sinker was moving 24 inches horizontally tonight. His changeup was moving 25 inches horizontally tonight. And his sweeper was moving 19 inches horizontally. So think about this. The sweeper was moving 19 inches from the right to the left on your TV screen. And then the next pitch's changeup was moving 25 inches from the left to the right on your TV screen. That's 44 inches from where one ends up to where the other one ends up. That's almost 4 feet of movement. Yeah. So you can imagine if you're the Dodgers and you're in a hole because, oh, by the way, he's throwing with velocity at the same time. He's got a fastball that's getting up there 94, 95 miles an hour. So if you're down 0-1 and you have no idea what's coming, if it's the sweeper or the changeup, that's 4 feet of horizontal width that you've got to cover. And the sinker's going 94 and the sweeper's going 84. So you've got 4 feet of plate that you've got to cover, as well as 11 miles an hour on a fastball. Again, I get that you can be frustrated with the offense. We're going to talk about squandered opportunities. 4 feet and 11 miles an hour, Anthony. I mean, when the guy has control and command, the Dodgers tonight, by the way, as far as swings and misses, they swung 46 times against Michael King. They whiffed 19. That's a 41% whiff rate, which is insane. Glasnow, who is very good, had a whiff rate of 25% tonight, for context. So I see someone say they made King look like Nolan Ryan tonight. King made King look like Nolan Ryan tonight.
King did it. Yeah, I mean, it's I struggle to figure out why people think it can only be the Dodgers' fault if they don't perform offensively. Sometimes you get beat by a pitcher who's on, and this guy doesn't have to be an ace. It happens, and the whole adage of, you bring up a no-name guy from the other team and he's going to shut out the Dodgers, or, the Dodgers bats don't come alive in big games, or, that kind of thing. And any game you're watching that they lose, it turns into a big game because they lost it. Right.
Yeah.
But no, sometimes you just have a guy on the other side who is on that night. Yeah. And you run into that. You run into a buzzsaw like that every once in a while. Look, if the Dodgers caught a couple of breaks or an error here or there by the defense, then the Padres are having this conversation about Tyler Glasnow.
Yeah.
And even though Glasnow is more consistent and he is at the front end of the rotation kind of guy, and King's not necessarily that at this point, It doesn't mean that they didn't get beat by the guy on the mound versus like, oh, we were just terrible and we should have won that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. King, by the way, his yearly average for movement on the sinker, the average was 15. His average tonight was 19. So he was getting 4 more inches of movement horizontally on his sinker. He was getting 3 more inches of movement horizontally on his changeup. Interestingly enough, his sweeper was actually down 2 inches. So just nasty stuff from him. We've got a super chat here from Laura. Laura says, King didn't pitch the whole game, and we are going to face this type of pitching in the playoffs. And I agree. I agree with both of those sentiments. I would argue that I think King, I mean, again, people clearly disagree with the assessment that I have, that I think we have, that King was just spectacular tonight. They want to find somebody on the Dodgers to blame.
They want a head on the pike.
Yeah, exactly. But to Laura's point, he didn't pitch the whole game. He came out, Yuki Matsui came in, and it felt like the Dodgers were going to get something going, Anthony, because Mookie Betts, a little bit of fortune, really hard hit ball, I believe 104 miles an hour, goes right off the shin of Matsui and bounces into right field. Ohtani slaps a ball 107 miles an hour. I don't know how you slap a ball 107 miles an hour. Ohtani does. It skips to the wall, and the Dodgers have second and third with nobody out, with the heart of the order still to come in Freeman, Smith, and Muncy. Freeman does his job. First pitch, sac fly, ties the game. Will Smith gets intentionally walked, and then the bad luck. I shouldn't say bad luck. Just not a great piece of hitting for Max Muncy. He missed the middle fastball on pitch number 1, grounds into a double play. The Dodgers, Anthony, stranded a runner at second base in the second inning and the third inning off of King. And then in the 8th inning, had a runner at second base with 1 out and were not able to cash in. 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position for the Dodgers. And again, one of those at bat, one of the 0 for 4s was not against Michael King, but against the bullpen.
Yeah. Not a whole lot of opportunities were created for them, on their own. And King did not pitch the whole game. And then the one time they brought in a guy who you didn't expect to be dominant, they got to him a little bit. Yeah. You and I were talking about it during the game. They should have gotten more out of that inning, we thought.
Yeah.
They did well to tie the game, but they probably should have got more out of that 8th inning. And then in the 9th, you bring in a guy who has been lights out all season. And he was lights out tonight. Doesn't give up a run, and then Grove comes in the double and then the hit, and they lose. And sure, they're going to face good pitching in the playoffs. Here's the thing. They're not always going to fare like this against good pitching, though. Again, it's a game in May. It happens. It's, we don't like it. None of the Dodger fans like it. I'm sure they don't like it in that clubhouse. But, they've beaten good pitching a bunch of times this season already. And they've made good pitchers look like mediocre pitchers a bunch of times already this season. We have to remember that stuff too and keep things in perspective a little bit when, they're going to lose, in a really good season, they might lose 55 games, right? We can't act like this every time they lose. And we have to understand that, yes, they are going to beat themselves. They've had plenty of those games this season already, more than we would probably care to discuss. But this was a night where they just got beat. It does not mean, okay, well, that means the first good pitcher you face in October, you're going to lose 3-0 because you can't hit these guys. No, they've made plenty of good pitchers so far in the first month and a half of the season look bad.
Yeah. Look, the Dodgers won 14 out of their last 16 coming into this one. They lose 2-1 in the bottom of the 9th against a team that I think is pretty good. Maybe I'm in the minority there. And the sky is falling. We just went through this 3 weeks ago, folks. It's okay. We could take a deep breath.
You guys, okay. If we want to head, let's say this is all on the Dodgers. Everybody except Glasnow and probably Shohei, who just flicked 107 miles an hour or whatever it was to put them in that position. Okay, we want to head. Who's the head?
Yeah.
Whose head do you put on the spike and put out in front of Chavez Ravine and say, this is the guy that did it. It's on it. And he can't be Dave Roberts because come on.
Well, it's going to be Dave Roberts. That's going to be the person. It's going to be the person we get. And look, again, it's baffling to me that it's apparently never able to be the other team playing well. And the Dodgers faced a great starting pitcher tonight, and it just didn't come their way. So let's do this. Let's give away a book. Maybe that'll turn the tide. Maybe that'll put some pep in the step of some people who are having a tough night. We used to do this back in the day. We're bringing it back. If you were a newspaper writer, Anthony used to be a newspaper writer, and you had to write a front page news story covering this game, what would your headline be? And again, maybe this is an opportunity for you to get all your negativity, all your anger, all your frustration out. But throw a headline in the chat. We'll throw some of our favorites up and we'll pick one. And that person is going to win the first copy of the Clayton Kershaw book that we give away tonight. So first, what would your headline be? You got things to work with here. For fun, we've got officially a rivalry. You've got Michael King. So King, you could probably use that name. Anthony, were you in charge of writing your own headline, or did they have somebody that was like their deal?
No, we had they were called copy editors or desk editors. And you would write your stories and you would send them in, and then they'd lay them out on the paper when people still cared about the print edition of the paper. And then also they put them online, and then they would do the headlines. We almost never wrote our own stuff. And so that's why reporters on Twitter or wherever you see your news get mad when you yell at them for a headline or something like that, and you don't read their story because they don't have any control over the headlines.
I love it. I love it. Laura's got Dodgers seek revenge, fall short. Michael, Dodgers in postseason form. Dodgers lose again to Padres and water is wet. Jason, Padres unis are gross. There we go. Wow, they actually lost. There we go. Some positivity. They'd won 14 out of 16 here. Padres arise to the occasion in divisional series rematch. King checkmates LA. See, this is what I was going for right here. Peter, that might be the one. James can't throw anyone out, man. It was I love Outman. It was not an awesome throw from center field on the last play. I felt like the way it was hit hard, and I'll give him credit because he fielded that ball in center field, kind of coming sideways, fielded it nicely on the short hop. And I was like, all right, if he makes a good throw, it's going to be close. That ball bounced in front of the mound. Not awesome.
I thought if he could have picked it before that second bounce, I thought he had a chance. Once it bounced again, I knew then it was going to be a little tough because it kind of handcuffed him.
Yeah. Fred says Dave Roberts, master bumbler. We're going to get into that. King dominates Dodgers. Let's see. Yeah. Lil Bro strikes back. I like that one.
Let's have some fun. Get the pun book out.
Yeah, exactly. All right, first competition, we're going to go with Peter. King checkmates LA. So, Peter, here's how we're going to do this. If you were on Twitter, go ahead and find me at Jeff Spiegel. Send me a direct message, and we will get you hooked up with a book. If you are not on Twitter, if you want to leave your email address in the chat, you can do that. Or if that doesn't work, send a message in the chat and say, give me your email, and Blake, who's running our account, we'll post an email address for you to send us your shipping address. So, Peter, congratulations. The first copy of The Last of His Kind is headed to you. King checkmates LA is going to be the headline for that. Again, 2 more opportunities to win a book tonight in the next 30 or 40 minutes. We're going to have a favorite Kershaw memory and a trivia question as well. Anthony, we haven't talked about Glasnow, though. Tyler Glasnow, 7 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts. I don't know what more we can possibly say about this guy and the way that he's been pitching lately, because the game log on him, I'm not going to say that we expect 7 innings and 10 strikeouts for him, but when you look at the game log, 7 innings and 10 strikeouts is what we got last time out. Yeah. 6 innings and 9 strikeouts, 8 innings and 10 strikeouts. So in his last 4 starts, he's got 39 strikeouts, Anthony. It's a pretty dominant run against the Mets, Blue Jays, and Braves. Padres now, so not exactly beating up on the Rockies and the Nationals here.
Yeah, we just swept the Braves. That I didn't even think about that, but we're terrible now. One thing I noticed, something that I kind of observed was there's a difference between control and command, right? As a pitcher, and at least how I define them, I think a guy with control is around the zone. He's not walking a ton of guys, but a guy with command he's dotting the strike zone, and he's putting all his pitches or most of his pitches where he wants them. He's not leaving balls middle. That's command. I thought that for the first time in a little while, Glasnow did not have real precise command. He had control. And he was, that's why he was still, his stuff is so good. If he's got some control, he'll be okay. But he didn't have perfect command, but his stuff was so good. He was able to kind of get away with it, and he pitched around things. And he had that pinpoint command kind of when he needed it. And he was able to put guys away with it, especially. This wasn't his best, like I thought, command or stuff outing, but what we're seeing here is the first real ace this rotation has had since prime Clayton Kershaw, and we're being reminded of how good that run was. He's this kind of guy. I think this is why the Dodgers made an aggressive move to go get him and immediately signed him to that extension, because I think they understood who this guy was as long as he can take the ball. And we're seeing it. You look at that line and you go, man, how can you say he wasn't that good? Because we've seen him be better just in his last few starts. Yeah. Right. Like, at least in my opinion. So when he can be a little down from that, maybe have a B+ kind of game and still put up this kind of line, that's fantastic. You really have a guy who can take the ball in game ones or in pivotal games in October, since, we're kind of talking about October and how the bats might act. That's what he's showing me right now. And this was just more evidence of that. And I was really happy to see him put up this kind of line when I didn't think he had the most pinpoint command that we had seen him have this season.
One thing that's impressive to me, I mean, in the 7th inning, he was still throwing 97.6 mile an hour fastballs. His hardest pitch all game was 97.8. In his last inning, he threw 97.6. So the fact that he's able to carry the upper echelon velocity that deep into a game is pretty remarkable to me. I don't know. I mean, I actually would disagree a little bit and say I thought he looked like, I didn't see anything that felt like it was missing today. I think about that Machado count at bat, where he felt like he was dotting that upper fastball right above the zone where he wanted it. It felt like the breaking balls were kind of dangerous enough where guys had to sort of stay honest on it. And I think it's just, what's interesting about him, it was funny to watch him versus King, because Glasnow, you're basically looking at 3 pitches. It's like he's going to throw a 97, 98 mile an hour fastball. He's got the sweeper and he's got the curve. Whereas King is throwing, it feels like 4 different pitches going every different direction. With Glasnow, there's not a ton of guessing necessarily. It's just that you can't hit it. Like, it's like you can know fastball's coming and still not be able to hit it, which in part is what made the one hit he gave up, the Campusano home run, so impressive, because not only do you need to guess fastball, but then you need to get up top and locate it.
Yeah. And like you said, he was putting the ball where he wanted to. I thought it just waxed and waned a little bit. It wasn't as dominant as we've seen him, and that's a high bar. And so we're measuring him against himself. And the plus stuff is why you can know what's coming and you still can't get the barrel on the ball. Again, like every single team in baseball has a number 1 starter. Yeah. Like 6 or 7 have an ace. Yeah. And the Dodgers have an ace now. They hadn't had one in a long time. For as good as Buehler had been, that 1 year where
I was going to say peak Buehler might have been.
He was getting there. And I think what made that injury so much more devastating is that we thought the next line in that progression was a true ace. He was going to be that true ace. He was going down that path, and he still might be. But the Dodgers hadn't had one since Kershaw, a real guy like that. Even when they traded for Max and some of those other moves that they had made, they didn't get that kind of guy out of it. They have it now, and that's really exciting, because some of this stuff, some of these walls they've run into in October were partly because they didn't have an ace or even a guy who was giving them 6-7 innings in a playoff start. Now they have a guy that they can count on to do that, and that really makes a difference for the rest of that rotation in the playoff series and the bullpen.
Yeah. Before we pause and take a conversation about Blake Trinan, about Michael Grove and the decision to go there, I do want to stop us real quick and let you all know about a sponsorship that you've started to hear a little bit about, SoRare MLB, who is now sponsoring and supporting our show. We are super grateful to be partnered with them, and I wanted to share a little bit with you all exactly what SoRare has to offer. SoRare, you've heard us talk about it, is an opportunity for you to play like a general manager, to build a team of digital collectible cards that are officially licensed by MLB. You collect these cards, you keep these cards forever, and then you start to earn points with them depending on how your guys play in real life. So think about having trading cards when you were growing up, or maybe still today, and being able to like play a game with those as those players accumulate points. That's what SoRare MLB is all about. The reason that I bring this up in response to Glasnow is because I wanted to tell you a little bit about my team and about how you can play. So when you go to the SoRare website, you log in, you create an account, you can draft a team of any players you want within a budget that you have. This is my team that you're seeing on the screen right here. If you go to your club, you can click, and my group, Tyler Glasnow's my ace, baby. Tyler Glasnow was on the mound for my team tonight, and I loved it. I've got Gunnar Henderson, Edwin Diaz. We've got Yamamoto as well. We've got Ohtani. I believe Andy Pages is my fourth Dodger, because you've got to mix and match kind of some different salaries here. So you build your team, and then you compete. Every Monday and every Friday, different competitions begin. So today, this morning, a competition began. I entered it. You pick 7 of your 10 players to enter. I had Glasnow, Ohtani, and Pages all in my lineup, as well as Diaz, Gunnar Henderson, Ronald Acuna, CJ Abrams as well. So that's my 7-person group. And I say all this because we would love to have you all start to join us in these competitions. Anthony, I know you had a couple guys in the game tonight, right? No Glasnow for you though, right?
Actually, I do have Tyler Glasnow.
Okay.
He's my top pitcher. I have Shohei and I have Mookie. Yeah, I had some good performances out of this game tonight.
There you go.
That CJ Abrams pickup for you, I like.
We went 0 for today. He was my guy that got me 0 points. So no good from CJ Abrams. I know. So the way that it works is you compete Friday through Sunday on the weekend competitions. Depending on where you finish, you get free prizes. They're giving away digital cards. They're giving away, you can win cash prizes. I believe this season they're going to give over $1 million away. There's going to be competitions in the next couple of months, opportunities to win an all expenses paid trip to Major League All-Star Game. But here's the best part, just for Dodger heads, DodgerBlue.com. We've got a unique link down in the description. It is below. We'll put it in the chat as well. If you click that link, sign up for SoRare MLB, and then enter the competition that begins on Monday. We are doing drawings. So we've got 3 people that we're giving away 2 tickets to a Dodger game of your choice. To each of those 3 people, a 4th person is going to win $100 in free collectible cards. That's the other piece with SoRare, is you can buy and sell kind of upper echelon cards, powered up cards, if you will. So that's the other element. So click the link below. It is free to sign up, free to join. You draft a team, you enter a competition. As you do that, you will be entered in a chance to win. Again, 3 people will be chosen, 2 tickets to a Dodger game of each of their choice, as well as $100 for SoRare MLB. So we appreciate them joining us, coming on as a sponsor and a supporter, and we're excited to compete with and against you all as the season goes on. I'll give you a tip. If you're just signing up for SoRare, if you do not have a lineup already, this is what we've figured out. There's a few guys who are very, 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 very undervalued as far as what they cost. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, only 5 points. Top guys are worth 20. Glasnow's 20. Yamamoto, for some reason, only 5. Shota Imanaga, only 5. Edwin Diaz, almost 5. So if you pick those 2 guys as your starter and Diaz as your closer, you'll have plenty of money to go spend on Ohtani, on Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, all the top Glasnow, the top guys as you go. So again, shout out to SoRareMLB.com. Go ahead and check that out, because it is going to be a ton of fun to play with and against you all throughout the season. Link in.
That's kind of what I did, Jeff, is I think I took Glasnow and Ohtani as my first 2 picks.
Yeah.
And then on the rest of the guys, before I made my pick, I scrolled all the way to because they sort them by most expensive to cheapest. I went all the way to the bottom and found the cheapest guys, and then worked my way up from there of like who I thought I got value from. Yeah. So Diaz obviously was a guy who I think you have 120 points or coins or whatever it is to spend. And when I saw when he was 5, I was like, we're gonna click select on this one right here.
Yeah.
And I think, like, to give people a perspective, I think guys like Glasnow and Ohtani are like 20.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So if you get some $5 people, which you only play 7 of your 10, you add more cards as the game goes on. So stay tuned. More details, more giveaways, all sorts of stuff. But we appreciate you joining. Anthony, let's move on to the post Glasnow stuff. Neither of us had Blake Trinan on our team. Neither of us had Michael Grove on our team. Trinan 1 strike away from an immaculate inning. He looks nasty. But the guy everyone wants to talk about in the chat is Michael Grove. Everybody knows I'm a fan of Michael Grove. He's a good dude. He's been kind to me, come on our show a number of times. Joe Davis mentioned on the broadcast, in his last 10 appearances, he had an ERA of 2. He had been striking a lot of people out. The slider had become kind of a dominant pitch for him. Tonight, just not his night. He gives up a double, gets Ha-Sung Kim a little bit of a favorable call, ends up getting the strikeout, but then Luis Arias singles in the run. What's interesting to me, Anthony, I see some people in the chat that were saying earlier, why not walk Luis Arias? That's an interesting question when you're talking about a leadoff hitter and the 2, 3, 4 in the order are coming up behind him. Do you think in the case of Arias, how good he is, setting up the double play, et cetera, would that have been a better move? Obviously in hindsight, but in real time, were you thinking set up the double play, walk the guy who's the singles hitter and take your chances with Tatis and Machado?
It wasn't the first thought I had. But before the first pitch came, I thought, I wonder if Dave puts him on here. Yeah. The middle of the Padres order is one that, should be feared, and it is by a lot of managers in the league. They're not going to walk a guy necessarily to get to it, but from a strictly strategic standpoint, it would not have been a bad idea to set up the force play at any of the bases, to set up the double play. Maybe you help him get out of that. Again, hindsight, obviously, you should have walked him. He got the game-winning hit, right? But from a baseball strategy standpoint, like I said, probably the smarter play. I think just where they were in their order probably caused Dave some second thought on that and said, let's just try to get out of it, by getting him first. And then who knows what they would have done after that. Maybe somebody else does get walked later on in that inning if he would have gotten through that at bat. But I thought that tonight, speaking of the whole control command issue, he was missing, but he was missing in the zone. So he had some control. He didn't have command of it. And the 2 balls that got hit were barreled up because they were in the zone and they caught too much of it, probably.
Yeah. I know. I guess part of my surprise was that Grove is the guy. I mean, I know he had been
I thought that too. So you saw San Diego went straight to Suarez, right? Which is sort of, we're going to do that because we're at home. I am not a big believer in the home road split in terms of when you use your closer. I think you use your guy when the leverage is the highest.
Yeah.
And when he brought Grove in, my thought was, okay, he's trying to steal an inning because the bottom of the order was up. And then he was, had the top of the order let off that inning. Maybe we do see Hudson, and not that he's been so dominant either. Like the options are kind of limited back there right now with the injuries, and he had already used Trinan. But that was sort of my thought on it, was because of where they were in the order, Dave was trying to steal an inning. And then if they could have gotten to the runner on second base, then he was going to use Hudson to try to actually get out of that without giving up a run. Again, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that philosophy. I think you try to stop the bleeding or stop their opportunity to win as soon as you can.
Yeah.
He tried to steal one with Grove because I think of where they were at in the order when the innings started.
Yeah, and look, it's worth pointing out with Daniel Hudson, Michael Grove, if you just look at like the last 2 weeks, Michael Grove's actually been better than Daniel Hudson. I'm not saying Grove is better.
Yes.
I'm not saying Grove is better, but Hudson has given up runs in 2 of his last 3 outings, 3 of his last 5 outings. So he hasn't been on top of his game. But I think you're right. I think Dave saw 8-9-1 tie game, said let's save Hudson. Now my issue is you've also got Vesia. So like I've got to go to either Hudson or Vesia in my estimation in the 9th there, even if it's 8-9-1. I know Vesia is a lefty. He actually has performed pretty well against righties. So like I would just take my chances with Hudson. Grove also, like when he's on, has some swing and miss stuff. So maybe that plays up a little bit with the runner on second. Grove got out of the last time a week ago. Was it a week ago? We were on here after the extra inning game. Yep. And Grove was the guy who got out of the 10th inning without allowing the guy to score. So, it's just good one night, bad the other.
Yeah,
But
he's been good, and like you said, he's been good. He's been. I didn't look at that side by side comparison, but yeah, I mean, he's been better than Hudson, right? And he got out of this
weirdly.
a worse situation a week ago. Just didn't do it tonight. I don't have a problem with who he brought in necessarily. I could have that conversation about, should you have walked the guy to set up the force play or the double play? Sure. But I didn't think it was necessarily a bad decision to go with Grove in that position.
Yeah, and the argument, one other thing on the Arias, should they have walked Arias? With a guy who hits like he does, a single doesn't normally kill you. In that spot, a single kills you. So if you were making the
Right.
case for why you should walk Arias, which I'm going to be honest, that thought never crossed my mind because I'm never thinking about walking the leadoff guy to get to the 2, 3, and 4 hitters. In this case, it might have been the rare case, A, in hindsight, obviously, but B, just as I think about it more, it's like, Arias, you're less worried about because there's no slug, but you're not worried about slug in that spot. So
No,
if
yeah,
you're
you're just
worried
worried
about a
about a base
single,
hit.
you'll take your chance. Like Arias's odds of getting a single are dramatically greater than both Tatis and Cronenworth. Tatis has some swing and miss, etc. But
Yeah.
in hindsight, I just think it's one of those games where things just didn't bounce their way. Grove didn't have it, King did. Arias gets the hit. The Dodgers played some odds and came up on the wrong side. So
Yeah, a game like this where they don't really hit or score for 9 innings comes down to the finest of margins.
Yeah.
And this one didn't break in their favor when Grove was in there. But yeah, and it's possible Dave Galaxy brained this a little bit and said, I want to try to get a rise, and then maybe I'll walk another guy later on in the inning. And
Yeah.
that's just sort of like, you got to manage for the guy who's at the plate.
Yeah.
And so if you had thoughts of walking anybody in that inning, it should have been once that double happened.
Yeah. All right. We're going to do some Q&A stuff here in just a minute, but let's get to another giveaway here. Let's do some Clayton Kershaw trivia here. We're going to have 3 trivia questions on Sunday night. So Sunday night is going to be 3 trivia questions to give away, 3 Clayton Kershaw books. Again, shout out to the book publisher Hachette for giving us 10 copies to give away. We're giving 1 away on Twitter, 1 away on Facebook, 1 away on Instagram, 3 away tonight, 3 away on Sunday night, and then a 4th one on Sunday night for folks who leave a super chat either tonight or on Sunday night show. So 1 trivia question tonight, 3 more coming at you on Sunday. But Anthony, this is one of my favorite stats about Clayton Kershaw. First person in the comments to get this one right that I can see is going to win. This is one of my favorite Clayton Kershaw stats. Now I've just got to find it. Here we go. To begin his career, Clayton Kershaw's ERA went down in how many consecutive seasons? That's the trivia question. It went down every single year for how many years? His career ERA, how many consecutive years did his ERA go down before eventually having to go back up? That's the trivia question. We'll wait to see if anybody in the chat is going to get this one right. To begin his career, Clayton Kershaw's career ERA went down in how many consecutive seasons? How many consecutive seasons is the question. I have not seen a correct answer yet. And you get 1 guess. Don't guess twice. Don't guess twice. Come on, Laura. 3. Laura, come on. 3. Let's see. Still nothing. We've got
Laura's
6,
not even sure about that
3,
answer. Put a
4.
bunch of question marks
Yeah,
out.
Laura did put a bunch of question marks. I see a 5. I see a 7. I see an 11. 2. This is Clayton Kershaw, folks. Keep in mind, his first year, not his best year. Nope. 8, 6, 1, 11. Nando with the win. 10 consecutive seasons that Clayton Kershaw's career ERA went down. To me, that's one of the most remarkable stats ever. Like, can you believe that, Anthony? He pitched 10 seasons, and every single year, his ERA went down.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Incredible. I mean, you think about how low it had to have been after like 8 and 9. We're talking like mid 2s, and he just continues to get better and better and better. So shout out to Nando. We've got a copy of The Last of His Kind headed your way. That was a lot of guesses, folks. So Clayton Kershaw, kudos to him. He's awesome. But yeah, 10 consecutive years. So Nando, same thing. Blake left his, Blake will leave his email in the chat. Blake at mediumlargela.com, I believe is his email address, or you can send me a direct message at Jeff Spiegel on Twitter. Those are the 2 options. There you go. He just put it. So message one of us on Twitter or Instagram, or send Blake at mediumlargela a email with some shipping information. We'll get that book to you. So again, we got 1 more book to give away here in just a second. We'll do that in just a little bit. So there's our Clayton Kershaw trivia again. Come back. We got 3 more questions coming at you Sunday night. Let's see. Let's do a quick recap of this game. Then we'll get to some questions. And again, we've got one more giveaway here. Again, if you're just joining us, of course, the Padres win this one 2-1. It was a pitcher's duel of all pitcher's duels. There was the ESP or the Opta Stats had this. Tonight is the only game in Major League, the modern era of Major League Baseball, in which both starting pitchers went at least 7 innings with 10 or more strikeouts and 2 or fewer hits. Let me say that again because I butchered it the first time. Tonight's game is the only Major League game in the modern era in which both starting pitchers went at least 7 innings with 10 plus strikeouts and 2 or fewer hits allowed. Tyler Glasnow, 7 innings, just 1 hit. The problem, the 1 hit was a solo home run. He gets 10 strikeouts. Michael King on the other side throws 106 pitches, 7 innings, 2 hits, no earned, 11 strikeouts for him. Again, the Dodgers strand a runner in scoring position in the 2nd inning, in the 3rd inning, and the 8th inning. They go 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. Ohtani was 2 for 4. Mookie Betts reached base twice with a hit and a walk. Will Smith had a walk, and Freddie Freeman had a single. 4 through 9 in the Dodgers order had 0 hits. Pages walked twice as well, so kudos to him. But just 4 hits for the Dodgers on the night, 4 walks as well. The Padres only reached base 5 times, but were able to cash those 5 trips on the bases to 2 runs because Campusano hits the home run and then base leads off the bottom of the 9th inning with a double before Luis Arias knocks him in. Shout out to the people joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Over 1,400 people live watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We greatly appreciate it. If you've got questions, let's start throwing those in the chat. All caps questions. We'll get to some of these, and then we will end the show by sharing some memories of Clayton Kershaw. We're going to randomly pick one Clayton Kershaw story as a winner to send one more book out. Again, Super Chats will enter you into a contest to win a book that will be an extra bonus book given away on Sunday night. Larry wants to know, is Ryan Yarborough's value decreased during the postseason? He was left off the active roster during the 2023 NLDS. Yarborough, kind of the long reliever, soft tosser, kind of junks it up a little bit, has been effective. Anthony, I believe I picked him 4th in the reliever draft that we had a couple weeks ago. But what do you think? Like, is he a guy that you think you could ever get to trusting in the postseason, or is his a regular season only role?
I don't think it's a matter of trust necessarily. It's a matter of value on a roster in that kind of situation. You don't have a lot. You tend not to have a lot of need for a swing man like that, even when they're effective. And you typically are looking for relievers who can give you velo and swing and miss in those situations. And he actually hasn't been too bad, I guess, with that. And obviously not the velo, but he's been able to keep hitters off balance enough. But I think it's just a matter of need in those situations. And so while he's been effective, his value is higher in the regular season when you're trying to save bullpen innings and maybe piggyback starts and things like that. His value is higher over the course of 162 than it is over the course of trying to put together wins in the postseason. So it would be nice to have a guy like that. If a starter kind of has some trouble, can't really make it out of the 4th or something like that, or the bullpen has been taxed, then it's a nice luxury to have. But in the postseason, his role kind of tends to be one of luxury and not necessarily need.
Yeah. Look, the best case scenario is the Dodgers don't need Ryan Yarbrough in the postseason. They've got enough arms that can get swing and miss, that can throw hard from both sides, that they don't need it. I do think his role is outsized in the regular season. That said, he's been really effective. So I don't think it's a 0% chance that you could see him kind of, look, how often have we seen teams, Anthony, that have a bullpen game as part of their playoff plan? Obviously,
It's
again,
we're
hoping that between Kershaw and Buehler and Dustin May and Gavin Stone and Emmett Sheehan, like between all these guys that you, in addition to the Yamamoto, Glasnow, Bobby Miller types, that you can get to 4 guys you trust in the postseason. But I think as a whole, we would say, Larry, that your instincts are pretty good here. that there is a decreased value. Didn't mean no value, but definitely decreased value if the Dodgers have the full sort of arsenal of arms available.
And if we're being real, a big part of the reason why the Dodgers were so aggressive in getting Glasnow and Yamamoto was because of what we had seen the last two postseasons in terms of them running out of starting pitchers in the playoffs. They just didn't. They wanted to have a surplus of that, especially like front end kind of guys, right?
Yeah.
Glasnow, Yamamoto, Kershaw, and Buehler when they're healthy. Those are four like top of the rotation type of starters. And if you can get those guys healthy into October, you would think there's no need for a guy like Yarbrough.
Yep, I hear you. Hawaiian Kira, would you have subbed a hitter in the top of the ninth? That was Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Pages, Gavin Lux. They obviously had Suarez out there, so you've got a righty, a hard-throwing righty. Really, the only guy I could even think about there is Kike Hernandez. Would you have, and obviously I'm assuming we're not subbing out Hernandez or Pages, so, I mean, would you have tried to go to Kike in a 1-1 game with 2 outs in the top of the ninth and Gavin Lux at the plate?
Not necessarily. I didn't have that thought at all. Gavin homered in his last at bat, or in the last game. Maybe he's finding something. You kind of hope he runs into one.
Yeah.
I don't. Also, putting a guy in cold to face 100 against one of the best relievers in baseball that's a tough ask of anybody. Yeah. I didn't have an issue with him rolling out the lineup as it was.
Yeah. I just think with 2 outs and nobody on, like even if Kike Hernandez gets up there and gets a hit, it's 1-1. So you're not coming from behind. You're not quite desperate yet. And then you've got Outman coming up right behind him, who, clearly is in the same spot as Lux as far as trust goes. So it didn't cross my mind. I think you're probably saving Kike there in case you need him in a different spot later in the game, or when a lefty comes in, something along those lines. Noisy Ninja wants to know, do you think Dave Roberts is actually telling the truth about option not being sent down? Dave Roberts was quoted the other day he's not ready to option James Outman. Just talked about kind of the uncertainty with his mechanics, uncertainty with his approach, is what Dave Roberts said. But when asked about sending Outman out for an assignment, he said, not right now. I think some of it's contingent on Jason and his progression, so we still have some time. Do you believe him that that's kind of right now they're not thinking about sending James Outman down?
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How can you possibly believe that?
But you can't. I mean, he's obviously not going to say that publicly.
He's definitely getting sent down in 8 days when Hayward's back.
Right. And then every beat guy goes straight to James Outman and asks him about getting sent down. You don't want that in his head. So he's not going to say that publicly, but of course it's been discussed. It's probably been discussed for 2 weeks along with everyone else who's a potential guy to go down. He is the most obvious choice for a bunch of different reasons, mainly that they can send him down because he's an option. Unless he gets on a real hot streak in the next week or however long it takes for Jason to come back, he's going to be the guy. Yeah.
And look, it could be a good thing for him if he can go down there, work out some things, get some confidence back, and then come back up. But yeah, look, James Outman's better than Chris Taylor. Chris Taylor can't be sent down. Yeah. James Outman can. So it's a pretty simple math equation there on that kind of a thing. Let's see some more questions here. Hallelujah, just trying to take over as closer for now with 3 games under his belt. He is back. We got to go all caps back there. Hallelujah. 9 up, 9 down for Trinan. He looked filthy with Evan Phillips out. He's number 1 on my most trusted reliever list already. Would you say the same, Anthony?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's definitely ascended to number 1 in a very quick hurry. As far as making him the closer, I wouldn't do that just yet.
Yeah.
I'd like to keep him in the role that you expect him to be in. Especially if they really are thinking that Phillips's injury is going to keep him out the minimum amount of days. If that's the case, then I keep him where he's at. You just, you piece it together with Hudson and whoever else you might need to use back there in the ninth.
Yeah.
If Phillips is out longer and you really start to have struggles in that part of the bullpen, then I think you have that conversation. But I think for now, I would just like to keep him in his routine and say, you got the 8th inning. We've talked about this before, but these guys are creatures of habit. so just I don't think you're in a desperate need for him to be moved out of it right now. We'll know that position. We'll know that situation when we get there. Hopefully we don't, and hopefully Phillips is back in a hurry.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. Casey was wondering, do you think Muncy was going to face Matsui? I thought he was going to get pulled. What about that? Going to Kike in the 8th inning when you had runners on first and second with one out. We know Max Muncy, I believe he's hitting, coming into tonight, he's hitting 171 against lefties. And yet, on the whole, this is a guy who's been hitting really, really well, playing really good defense down at third base as well. So is
Yeah.
Max Muncy untouchable? Or from a platoon perspective, again, in hindsight, should they have considered Kike Hernandez? Do you think Kike Hernandez was considered as a pinch hitter there?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And I don't think that means Max is untouchable. I just think that in that particular situation, it wasn't a thought. I did not have that thought in watching the game. I thought he was up there for slug, and you were hoping that that's what he gave you. He hit the ball okay in that, and he just right at somebody, and then you're not Max Muncy's not beating out a lot of double
Yeah.
plays when they're hit like that. So no, and he's been seeing the ball well lately. I thought that leaving him in that situation was probably the move I would have went with.
Yeah.
If you're telling me the alternative there is Kike Hernandez, I'm going with Max.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, with one out, you're not imagining a double play there, even though, of course, it's on the table.
Yeah,
Let's
and
do
you
one.
can never manage for that, right? You can never go, I want to pinch hit here because I don't want this guy to hit into a double play. That's not a thing that you can think about. It's because it's such a, even though it happens it happens. You can't predict, one, you can't predict that, and two, it's not something that you remove a guy for, because when you have to face him and you say, hey, the reason I'm taking you out is because I don't want you to hit into a double play, that doesn't go over well.
Yeah. And look, you need to save Kike for potentially pinch hitting for Lux or Outman is probably what you're thinking at some point. You're not going to burn the one pinch hitter. I mean, apologies to Miguel Rojas, that you kind of feel decent about, and then come up in a big spot later in the game and be like, well, now Gavin Lux is hitting against a lefty because he's our best option. And Rojas probably deserves more than that, but I think that's a piece of it. So let's get to one more question, and then folks can start sharing some Clayton Kershaw memories in the chat. We'll go through theirs. Although we do have a super chat here. Ozzy, how patient will they be with Outman? I mean, we just talked about that we think in the next week to 10 days, he's probably getting optioned. And part of that is obviously, a large part of that is how much he struggled. The second part is just the logistics of he has an option. But I guess I'll ask you the question this way, Anthony. Has your long-term view of Outman changed after what you've seen in the first month and a half of this season?
Long term, no, but short term, yeah. About a week ago, I was very much on the side of the line of, let's try to let him figure this out and keep swinging through it. But with Hayward coming back soon and him still really not having it figured out, I think that's okay. I think you can move him down. Long term, I'm going to say no, though, because again, he had a real hard out tonight. I think it was a liner to right. So no, I haven't lost confidence that he's just totally lost. Because he's still putting together some decent at bats. He's still finding the barrel enough that there's hope there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think long term, I still think he's probably a core piece of this organization. Short term, though, he's going to be the guy that gets optioned, and I think it's probably best for him.
Yeah, and look, I was really high on him after last year, and I'll be honest that my confidence has dipped just because this was kind of the fear. Like if you were characterizing what's the worst case scenario, like what's the thing that could happen that could derail it, it's kind of this. Like the mechanics sort of fall apart, pitchers adjust, pitchers adapt, and he just looks a little lost. There's still some quality contact in there that I'm not totally lost, and I still believe like the floor is he's a really good defensive center fielder with some power. So I think he's going to be like a useful major league player. Just a matter of like, is he a guy that can start for a team with the aspirations the Dodgers have? Or is he a guy that goes to a team that says, hey, we'll just take a really good defensive center fielder, even if he's hitting 210 with 20 home runs? I think that's the question. And I'll admit that my confidence in him has looked has been higher. I do think he's been helped by the fact that Lux is in the same boat as him and Chris Taylor looks even worse. So
Yeah.
you've got some context there around him, but definitely not what I like to see out of James Outman.
And he's been the victim too of like them facing a run of lefties too recently.
Yeah.
Where he hasn't gotten as consistent of at bats as he would like probably.
Yeah.
But I will give Dave credit for the fact that he continues to run him out there and he's trying to let him play himself back into this roster. He just hasn't found it yet. So, again, I think optioning him makes the most sense at this point.
Yeah. Let's get one more question here, and then we'll start sharing some of our favorite Clayton Kershaw memories as our final giveaway here. Noisy Ninja says this: I finished the book last night. I just couldn't put it down. Are there any other Dodgers books you would recommend? We've done a couple interviews on here that were really, really good. The books are behind me, unfortunately, but Daybreak at Chavez Ravine was another one, I believe, was an Eric Sherman book about Fernando that was really, really good. Best Team Money Can Buy by Molly Knight is very good. There was a book by, I'm blanking on his name, used to write for The Athletic. He wrote a book about the Dodgers as well, and kind of just the Andrew Friedman era that was really, really good. So I'll try and put some of those in the comments, but it's a great question. I think, I'll be honest, the Clayton Kershaw one is kind of my favorite because Clayton Kershaw is the man and Andy McCullough is really, really good at what he does. But there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of good stuff out there as well.
If you want another good book on Chavez Ravine, it's not the most positive Dodger book, but it is a really, really great breakdown of the history of how Dodger Stadium came to be. And it's called Stealing Home.
Stealing Home. Yep. Absolutely. I was just, as soon as you started saying that, I was like, I know exactly where he's going. And I've heard amazing things. I haven't read that one. The Daybreak at Chavez Ravine is kind of like, he takes that book and sort of summarizes it in the first one or two chapters to give the context for Fernando, which is helpful. But I've heard incredible things about Stealing Home. I see our guy Blake in the chat saying Big Chair by Ned Coletti as well. So there you go. Let's do this. Let's share some Clayton Kershaw memories, and we're going to give away one more copy of the Clayton Kershaw book. So give me your favorite Clayton Kershaw memory. It can be a story. It can be something that you got to experience live, maybe not the highlight of Clayton Kershaw's career, but something that you were there for. If you had a personal interaction there as well, we'll get to that. So Jason says, fondest Kershaw memory, April 21st, 2011, my first game at Dodger Stadium, afternoon game, first Dodger dog. Clayton Kershaw goes 8 1/3 against the Braves, 122 pitches, 8 strikeouts. Kimbrel blows the save. Kemp walk off in the 14th. I was hooked. How could you not be hooked, Anthony, after an experience like that?
Yeah, every other game's a disappointment after that, though.
Yeah, for sure. No, by the way, Clayton Kershaw did not die. We're giving away a book about his career, about his life. So there we go. Laura says the no-hitter in 2014 against the Rockies. Hawaiian Kira, my favorite memory, watching Kershaw's reaction to the Dodgers winning the 2020 World Series. I'm with you. If you read the book, there's a part in the book where they're interviewing Ross Stripling, and Stripling is watching the Dodgers win the World Series, and he is just screaming, "Where's Kershaw? Show Kershaw. Where's Kershaw?" And I'm like, that's me. The most relatable thing I've ever read, because it was absolutely fantastic. For mine, it's the Game 5 Nationals NLDS. Clayton Kershaw coming in to close the game, doing the thing that he had failed to do so many times. 1 day of rest, taking the ball from Kenley Jansen. Andy does a great job of telling the story, but Kenley knows he's getting pulled because he's gone out there and gotten like 7 outs. They throw him in the 7th and just say, give us whatever you've got. And normally, obviously, the reliever leaves. Jansen stayed on the mound because he wanted to hand the ball to Kershaw. Kershaw goes out, gets both outs, closes the game. That, for me, is what I've got. You have one, Anthony?
I was going to do that one. Yeah, okay. That was amazing to watch as a fan. Just the sort of gravitas of the situation and all the context with his history and all of that stuff, and then to see him doing that in that situation was one of the Kershaw moments I'll never forget. Another good one that I think I've shared on here before, so I was going to go with something different, and it was going to be that save situation. But I think it was in 2000, I forget, 13. It was 13. It was 13. Where he dominates the Giants, and the game's 0-0, and he hits a home run in the eighth, which essentially was a game-winning homer. That was one of my favorite, and it was opening day also.
Yeah. Doug's got a good one here, taking us off the screen. That's all right. In 2011, the Dodgers emailed season ticket holders at work one morning saying they were holding a Cy Young ceremony at lunch that day at Dodger Stadium for whoever responded first. My mom snuck off from work to lunch at Dodger Stadium for one of the greatest moments of her life. She got to attend this very intimate ceremony with the media only, just a handful of fans. She got to congratulate Clayton on his first Cy Young, and he signed her bobblehead box. So crazy, crazy. That's awesome stuff. Yeah, I saw another one. Uncles were back with the same thing. His reaction to winning the World Series. So great stuff there. Joel says this: when he pitched the no-hitter, also the other time when he hit his first home run on opening day. That was a great one. When he threw the complete game shutout, or I believe against the Giants, and hit the home run as well. I think we talked about that. Did we talk about that last week on the show?
I think we did. I think somehow it came up. I was covering that game, and I don't remember what the context of the conversation was, but I know I shared that memory of it being one of the fond memories I have of covering the Dodgers.
All right. Well, Jason Austin, first Dodgers game, Kemp walk-off in the 14th, Craig Kimbrell blowing a save, 122 pitches, hooked as a Dodgers fan. Jason, congratulations. We're going to send a book your way. So email Blake at mediumlarge.la. We'll get your address. We'll send that out, or you can send one of us a direct message on social media. The Dodgers bobblehead is all yours. So congratulations. Anthony, I do see a bunch of people in the chat, rightfully so, commenting on the loss of Sam Rubin from KTLA. Obviously a guy who is a massive figure in media in Los Angeles, a guy who was on KTLA. I saw you in the chat mentioning that you knew him as well. So a crazy, crazy thing to lose a guy that just, you just see these people from afar for most of us, and you wake up one day to find out that he's gone.
Yeah, I saw the news on Twitter, like a lot of people probably did, and it was just, when things like that happen, and these people, it's sort of a reality check of we're all we're all susceptible to this kind of thing. And so we were not close friends or anything like that, but we knew each other. And so to just see that kind of news, you really do a double take, and then just sort of like, I think my reaction was sort of like, wow, and it really hits home for you when somebody like that, who is sort of a staple in something that you love, and for a lot of us watching sports in LA, when something like that happens, and you really, I think, you feel it in a different way that than you realize. Like, if another celebrity might pass away or something like that, that you might not feel it that way, but you feel like there's a connection to certain people like this. And he was one of them, for sports fans in LA.
Yeah, KTLA for over 30 years. He passed away at 64, but it's just, I'll never forget a quote that has always impacted me. And it was basically like, a lot of people live like they're immortal, not like they're going to live forever, but like, I'll see you tomorrow. And there's just sort of this assumption that, well, I'm surely I'll see you tomorrow. I know I'm not going to live to 150 years old, but I'm definitely going to be here today. And sadly, death comes, and it reminds you that for some folks, that's not always the case. And so it's a tough one for the Los Angeles community. Of course, KTLA, those friends and family, our thoughts and prayers are with you, but it's a sad day for Los Angeles and for KTLA. Again, a guy who's been on the air for 30 years. So best wishes to his friends and family. Again, I'm seeing people in the chat that have been impacted that felt like they knew him. And I guess that's probably the best compliment that you can give to somebody who's on TV or on radio or in media in general, is that you just feel like these people who you've never had a competition, and never had a conversation with at any point. So sad news again. Sam Rubin from KTLA passed away today at 64. Well, folks, that'll do it for us. We're going to wrap up our show right there. Again, tough one for the Dodgers tonight. They lose 2-1, but we appreciate everybody for joining us. Another huge crowd, over 1,600 people in with us live right now on Twitter, on Facebook, and of course, right here on YouTube. Again, please check out SoRare MLB. You can sign up at the link in the description to this video or find it on our social media accounts. Sign up, register a team, and do so before Monday in order to enter the competition. We've got more giveaways to come, so pay attention to the Dodger Blue 1958 accounts on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram, because each of those 3 accounts is going to be giving away a book. And then be back here with me and Blake Williams on Sunday night at 7:10 p.m. on Mother's Day. Shout out to the mothers. Get ahead of that, folks, for everybody else who has a mother in their life.
Don't forget.
Don't forget. I may or may not have been reminded that it's Mother's Day on Wednesday of this week. And that was bad news for somebody who has both a mother and a wife of 3 kids. But yes, Blake and I will be here at 7:10. We'll be giving away 3 more books with some Clayton Kershaw trivia. So again, thanks to Hachette Books for getting us that as well. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your night. That is Anthony Witrado. I am Jeff Spiegel. Enjoy the rest of your night and go Dodgers.